I suffer from terrible loneliness. Where does that sudden and impelling loneliness come from?
I think the question is really important for this reason. What questions are tugging at you right now? And how might exploring the answers to those questions help unlock your potential? The questions that have come from our community, they're also real. Welcome back, or welcome to a special episode of the Finding Mastery podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michael Gervais.
A high-performance psychologist named Michael Gervais,
who Pete Carroll brought in to work with the Seahawks.
Famous for his work with Felix Baumgartner when he jumped out of space in the Stratos project.
Olympic athletes depend on something more than just training and talent. They have to stay mentally tough.
And this week, we're turning the microphone around again. And instead of diving into mastery through the minds of our remarkable guests, we are going straight to you for another Ask Me Anything episode.
I'm looking for different ways to experience anger without an outward harmful expression of it. Can you explain the default mode network? In the constant pursuit of perfectionism, how do you...
Stop there. That's it. You have once again submitted really deep and thoughtful and sometimes vulnerable questions about life and performance and relationships and how to navigate the complexities of our human experience. Now, in this episode, we have the help of former NFL player, co-founder and CEO of Momentous, and of course, the friend of Finding Mastery, Jeff Byers. All offer insights and perspectives designed to help us all think a little differently, to hopefully live a little better. Our brain's dictum is survival.
Yeah.
Loneliness is fine. It's normal.
Yeah.
Moments of feeling loneliness. But when it's enduring, so much so that it is on the rise as an epidemic, death by despair is a real thing.
I read Loneliness and I was like, oh man, I do feel lonely sometimes.
As you listen, I hope that you'll pay attention to the questions that resonate most strongly with you. We all know the answer, that perfectionism doesn't exist. This brings up a lot for me. And I don't know if I've ever said this publicly, but in high school. So with that, let's jump into your questions, our reflections, and an exploration of what matters most right here on Finding Mastery. Jeff, this is awesome that we get to do this. And it's been a long time that we've known each other. We've had, a lot of similar friends for a long time. You played at a high level, football. I got to be able to be part of it as a sports psychologist. So this is a treat. And it's also a treat because of the business that you built, Momentous. And, you and your partner built something that is real. You're real. The business is real. Our experiences have been real. And the questions that have come from our community, they're also real. So how you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm really honored to be back here with you. And I'm also like reading these questions out loud and doing all that is going to be really interesting. It brings back a memory of mine. I had an offensive line coach when I played for the Panthers named John Masco, and he would have everybody read openly in front of the O-line, like, hey, here's how this play is supposed to be run, and just like reading in front of public. And it's been a long time since I've actually read words that were written word for word, because I'm like you, I'm pretty dynamic in talk. You're
an orator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. There'll be a little performance evaluation happening internally for you. Yeah. That's good. And I just looked at some of these questions, skimmed them over last night, and wow, our community is on it. I saw that you just looked at them for the first time now, your first pass of these questions.
Yeah, they are real. I'm glad I'm not sitting in your seat on this one. I don't have your background, but also just we all face real issues, challenges, and what lives between our ears is complicated. And it's different but similar for everybody. And in a lot of these questions, I see bits and pieces of things that I have, and we all do. And that's what's so, I'm I don't know how I would even start to answer that question. It's but oh man, I do feel lonely sometimes.
Yeah. And that's one of the questions that's come up, how do you deal with loneliness? And so let's jump into it, because this is not going to be a mic-only conversation. You're on the hook now too.
Oh man, this is really exciting to be able to be on the other side of this.
Yeah.
All right, the first question is from Billy. In the constant pursuit of perfectionism and the expectation to feel 100% 24/7, how do you protect the central nervous system from sending misfires after being legitimately ill? I just got over the neurovirus after 72 hours, but the anxiety that it's left behind has stayed with me for weeks. How do you promote physical resilience so that I can perform at work and at home and calm this amped up nervous system? Oh man.
It's a lot. Billy, smart question. A couple key things that I heard in there is he's looking for some solutions for resilience. He's got a switched on nervous system that feels like it's kind of on high
Yeah.
alert. But the most important thing I heard in there, and it probably starts here, is it was the first sentence, his
Yep.
drive for perfection.
The expectation to feel 100% 24/7.
Yeah, you heard the same thing.
I heard that's where I automatically went.
So what that means to me, and I want to hear what it means to you, is that the framing of his situation is pushed through, kind of call it the channel of needing to be perfect. So if the framing is to be perfect, you're already on shaky ground. You're already in a situation where you cannot win.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I say that? We all know the answer, that perfectionism doesn't exist. The striving for something that doesn't exist is problematic if you just think about first principles and logic. So I start there and I say, okay, so if we're going to look for something to calm the nervous system, let's work on reframing kind of how you're approaching life. Sounds so dramatic. And then you will become more resilient as the approach. But before I get into some thoughts and some tactics, maybe even some research to support it, what is your first pass at it?
You've probably heard this line because we were around the same people, that you got to learn to love to be uncomfortable, right? And that's something that I remind myself in all these situations in life, because I find myself every day is a little different for me. And I've stopped trying to control the uncontrollables. And therefore, I never am like, I'm 100%, like I'm perfect. I'm always learning. And that uncomfortness is what I've found to love, like the ambiguity and finding the joy in not feeling great and figuring out, how do I figure out what I love about this situation? It's finding the joy and purpose in it as a whole, and just knowing, like, I think about purpose more than perfect, right?
Well, you just answered it. Like, you were given the clues to the answer, which is, and I just wrote them down, like, instead of approaching perfection, you're looking for purpose. That was the kind of the last little hurrah. But right before that, you said, no, I'm approaching life to be a great learner. I'm approaching life to be uncomfortable, because that's where learning and potential opens up.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about learning, growing, and the mechanism to be uncomfortable, driven by purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, those are separate but related. Purpose, according to research, has 3 main tenets to it. I'm going to hit those in a second. But the way that you're going after purpose is you're saying, look, if I'm going to be honest about my commitment to purpose, then I need to stay at that uncomfortable edge, because that's where real learning happens, and that's where accelerated growth takes place. And so you have fundamentally committed to be lined up for accelerated growth, personally and probably in your business and in your relationships, that is grounded in purpose. Does that sound like Jeff Byers?
100%.
Yeah. So that is orthogonally different than I am driven to be perfect. And will you go back and read the first 2 sentences in the question?
In the constant pursuit of perfectionism.
Stop there. That's it. In the constant pursuit of perfectionism is where the fundamental flaw that is setting the whole problem off, which is the expensive nervous system that's running and the lack of resilience. Okay.
Yeah.
So if somebody were to model their life a little bit more like you, Jeff.
Careful.
But it is not surprising to me, knowing you, that you have cracked high performance in the sport that you first loved, football, both a high level at college, high level in the pros. And then you also did the same thing in business, purpose-based, with an accelerated commitment, an honest commitment, to learning. Being uncomfortable is where that happens to get to accelerated growth. I don't think actually we need to take it any further. If you change the fundamental position, you're going to have the downstream resilience that you're looking for. Now, that being said, let me go back to purpose, the 3 tenets of purpose. And I want to start with a story. This brings up a lot for me, is that I had a mentor. I needed a mentor in high school. I was a good kid. I was confused. I didn't really know who I was. I didn't know I didn't have a big picture. My son loves, cracks a huge smile. And I don't know if I've ever said this publicly, but in high school, I'm going to couch it that I was an underperformer. Okay. That's not uncommon for people to want to brag about this, but and I'm not trying to brag, I'm trying to be honest here. I failed psychology in high school. I have that report card in my diagnostical manual, which a diagnostical manual for psychology is this large book that has all of the symptomology and clusters for diagnoses. I looked at it last night with him. He goes, Dad, did you really fail psychology?
How old's your boy?
17.
17.
And he's doing great.
Yeah.
He's doing great in school and life. And I went on, grabbed it, and I showed it to him, and he's like, I can't believe it. So I share that with you because I didn't have my purpose lined up. I was really struggling. Purpose, according to science, rests on three things. It has to personally matter to you. This has personal meaning to you. Nobody can give you your purpose. It has to be bigger than you. It's not about you and just you being at the center of your world. And the third component is it has to be out in front of you, something to work towards. Those are the three legs of purpose. And when you get that dialed in, kind of the rest seems pretty easy.
Yeah.
What is your purpose? Do you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's not as crystal clear. I really am passionate about creating impact in community, right? And being able to do that generationally, right? And teaching my kids on how to do that.
Yeah.
I think I have a unique position where I'm at is where I can galvanize for change and galvanize for a lot of different people that necessarily won't galvanize for themselves.
Where did that come from for you?
I was very close with my grandparents on my dad's side, and I see my grandparents as very purpose-driven at 60s plus. They helped build the community arts center in 2 different cities. They helped contribute to a library. They built arts festivals, funded music, and like you see the impact that it has. And I remember them talking to me about it and them always giving. They used to, my grandparents are both now passed on, but they used to give us money to go spend towards the end of their life. But they said, before you can cash this check, you have to write to me where you're going to donate X amount of this check to, right? For your Christmas present or your birthday present. And so it's like they were instilling this, right? With privilege creates obligation.
So they give you $100, let's say.
You gotta call me and tell me who you're donating $50 to.
It was 50%?
Whatever. Yeah, whatever it was. It probably was, knowing my grandparents as a whole. And it was just like that early on.
Bigger than you.
And
it mattered to you. You got to choose.
Yeah.
Interesting that your grandparents probably didn't know the science, but they were living it.
Yeah.
And they passed it down to you.
Yeah.
That those are the first 2 elements.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. So I share that with you because our nervous systems are on fire right now because of the pace and the speed of the world and because of the inability that we are walking around with not knowing how to deal with that stress.
Yeah.
And how to kind of calm the nervous system. How do you deal with your nervous system because you're living a high stress life?
Yeah. I wish I had like a set protocol, and I'm not great at it, right? Like I get home and I get chippy with my boys and I get chippy with my wife and I get short in those things. And I definitely show up to work as a very consistent person. And then when I'm home, I let those things wear. I think big things for me is like constant outdoor time, right? And things that bring me joy, right? Like taking the dog for the walk with my boys, throwing a ball, wrestling with them, cooking dinner as a family, like doing things together versus like tasks, like go do this, do that, clean your room is really important to me.
Are you tuned to your nervous system? And what I'm saying is like the fight flight response.
Yes, I know. And I'm always like, after I do it, I'm like, oh man, I knew I was in that. And I don't have the right tools yet.
To downgrade,
or I'm thinking about them too late. Right. And I would say when I played, I had a really great set of tools, right? You go from, my position that is so violent, and I would come home, like no kids, right? There's a very clear distinction when I was an NFL player to being at home.
That's right.
So I'd come home, I had a garden, like I grew my own vegetables. When I played in Carolina, I had people made fun of me a lot, but like I loved to garden, and I always cooked like a meal from scratch for dinner. And that was my downgrade of like go from something really violent, right, which is a game of football, and you're like trained to be violent, to right, creative giving, right, creating on that. And now, right, what I find, you just said it, is like my work life swirls everywhere, and it's like I don't have those systems in place because I'm like, right, home in 5 minutes, right? You're like on my drive home, maybe taking a work call, thinking about something at work, right, and there's stresses at work. And
so you're describing like what the modern condition is.
Yeah.
Like all on intense during kind of the 9 to 5 hours, if anyone has the luxury of 9 to 5, and then do some stuff with the family.
Yeah.
And then you go home and you need to, towards the end of the night, answer emails, clean up some stuff. Like it's 2 shifts, as we have come to understand. This is why the on mechanism and the recovery mechanism, The pedal's down, the gas pedal comes off. And so I'll be technical for a minute. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight, flight, freeze, submit, response. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest model. This is not new information.
Yeah.
But if we don't have an active practice to trigger the rest and digest systems, we run sympathetic dominant.
Always.
Okay. So what are those counter rotation practices that you can put in place to be able to downregulate? Billy, very clearly, kind of two of the big ones are meditation and or breathing practices. A third one is being able to have a peripheral vision gaze. So locked down to the barrel of the gun or the tooth of the saber tooth, or like that narrow kind of intense thing, just like when we're looking at our phone, is a triggering mechanism and is corollary to the fight flight, thing. So when we widen our gaze and we can do it and see the kind of the landscape of the world, you can't do that in a room. You need to be outside to do that. It also triggers the rest and digest. Laughing, holding hands, hugging, the thing that happens after high stress, purposely induced, like intensity from exercise. There's a rebound effect, which is the rest and digest. So there's a whole host of things to be able to do to purposely downregulate. This is why meditation and mindfulness practice has had this massive kind of moment over the last, call it 15 years, maybe more like 10 years is more popular. I was introduced to meditation in 1998. And so I've been meditating since 1998. I don't know what I would do without it. It allows me to have perspective. It allows me to be in tune with this always present awareness. So awareness is not something you build. Awareness is always there, but you do need to build the psychological skills to be aligned with awareness, to be with awareness. And awareness is kind of the whole thing. If you're not aware, you can't adjust.
Yeah.
Awareness is the whole thing, being tuned with awareness. So mindfulness meditation is kind of one of those ways. So anyways, I think we nailed it.
Yeah.
Shift from perfection to purpose, as you eloquently said. Calm your nervous system down. We just listed a handful of things. Most of them are in your control. And then you will become by default more resilient if you are able to downregulate and you're not sympathetic dominant all the time.
Yeah.
Big point. You have to practice the mental skills to be able to adjust your nervous system. Yeah. So cool. If you followed our work here at Finding Mastery for a while, you know the phrase that I love from Momentous, performance for life. That's really what we're doing. And one of the most under-consumed nutrients in the modern diet just might be fiber, even though it has well-established benefits for digestion and metabolism and energy regulation, long-term health. But so many of us are not meeting daily fiber needs from food alone. That was me for a long time. Some studies have even shown that 90% of Americans are deficient in fiber. Yet, most of us think that we're getting enough. That's why Momentous created Fiber Plus. It's a comprehensive fiber formula that is designed to address this foundational gap that we're experiencing without all the unnecessary additives that are found in many of the outdated fiber supplements. What it's worth, I love the taste of it. I don't normally say that about fiber supplements, but they built it right. It's simple. The way that they've designed this thing is wonderful. I can't say enough about it. If you want to try Fiber Plus, head to livemomentous.com/findingmastery and use the code Finding Mastery for up to 35% off your first order.
All right, next one from Anna. I'm looking for different ways to experience anger without an outward harmful expression of it and without an inward harmful expression or turning it into anxiety by avoiding it. I'm looking for something beyond the usual contemporary literature and advice. It's healthy to experience anger, et cetera, et cetera. I have been through all of that, and I'm looking for actual examples of high performers who allow themselves to experience their anger, notice the experience of it, and not have to crush it inward or communicate it towards others in a destructive way.
Anger's tricky. What's the goal here? I hear her asking for, how do I work with one emotion?
Mm-hmm.
And this emotion happens to be anger. Let's do two things. Let's separate the difference between emotions and feelings. Let's do that work for a minute. But let's float up a couple levels first and talk about like the kind of the bigger aspiration is to be unbothered. That's the highest performing state, is that whatever happens outside of you, you are unbothered by it because you are eloquently adjusting to whatever it is. You can't control that. This sounds so simple, but if you have a real set of internal capabilities and skills, you are more like Bruce Lee's aspiration, mind like water.
Yeah.
You just kind of roll. You stay moving onward, like towards what? Towards your purpose. Towards
That's
the
really
mission.
hard.
It's so hard.
So hard.
The ultimate attainment is to be unbothered,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, emotions are part of the ecosystem. And I'm on record saying the Olympics are for big emotions. The Super Bowl is for big emotions. But really, I don't see those two that differently. And I don't see everyday life that differently than the Olympics and the Super Bowl. Life is for big emotions. If you do not know how to work with your emotions, it's a hard life. Let me just kind of ground emotions from feelings, separate those two things for a minute. Emotions are the physiological experiences that are observable, that you can see in another person. Okay, you can measure emotions. Feelings are private, they are subjective. It's the way that you are interpreting or making sense of that physiological experience. Okay, physiological experience. What do I mean by that? When you are angry, there will be a tension, there will be a skin color difference, there might be a sweat that comes on board. That also might be fear, that also might be excitement. So the way you're interpreting those physiological, observable experiences are feelings. So Anna, anger's cool. I'm not like, oh, it can't be angry. I would love to get your take on how you dealt with anger. I understand there's also a different sandbox. Little boys and little girls, oftentimes, certainly in the US and many of the Western cultures, played in different sandboxes. And in that sandbox, we learn about emotions differently.
Yeah.
So I don't know the sandbox that Anna, you played in. I don't know that, of course. But I can kind of dangerously assume that this was not one that you were promoted to express anger.
Yeah, I do think society really has taught us anger is really bad. And it's a natural feeling, emotion, etc. I believe that.
When you are bothered.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really, anger is like, I'm bothered by this.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm frustrated and I'm intolerant and I'm pissed off or I'm raging or I got wrath or I'm just like annoyed. There's ranges of anger.
And what I read in this is like, it doesn't feel like it's okay to be angry. Like, how do I don't want to outwardly express it or inwardly compartmentalize it. Right. And that's the only things to do, right? In my mind.
Those are the two things that any emotion works.
Yeah.
External expression or internal musing, if you will.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to feel like, I think she writes here, it's like, it's healthy to feel anger. It is, right? I know that doesn't help anything, but I think it's also creating the practices, right, around it. And for me, right, like I do experience anger, right?
So do a scale of anger. So just think like for a minute, if you've got a 1 to 10 scale, rage is 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Annoyed is a 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Anger used as a 5. The word anger as a 5.
Yeah.
Where do you spend? Are you below the 5?
Below 5 almost always. I get really irritated.
Where's pissed off for you? What number?
Pissed off is probably a 5 or a 6, like really close.
No, say anger is 5.
Oof.
Where's ticked off and where's pissed off?
I would put pissed off below anger. Like,
interesting.
For me, like pissed off is like one of the things I think that drives my wife crazy is I get over things really fast, right? And I get pissed off or ticked off and I'm like, that was stupid. Why did I ever do that? Right? Like, take a step back, bigger picture, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, that was a dumb reaction. And so like anger to me is something that sits.
Oh, there you go.
Right? Yeah. And like pissed off is like, Mike, you kicked me in the shins. That was stupid and you're an asshole. And then I'm like, oh, you kicked me in the shin because I said something I shouldn't have said. Right? Like, I get it. That was
let's take the lead here because I want to learn from you and maybe I can add a best practice that I've learned to how to deal with any emotion, call it anger in this place.
Yeah.
Okay. Is you get over it quickly.
Yeah.
This is good. This is like, go back to Bruce Lee, like mind like water, trying to be unbothered, kind of going with the flow, but you got caught behind a rock for a little bit too long. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
But you're fast. You're rolling, through the stream, if you will. If you can name your emotion.
Yeah, it's important.
That's part 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being aware that you're in a state that you don't really want to spend a long time is always foundational. Awareness is foundational. Then if you can name it, oh man, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
This is pissed.
Yeah.
And then if you just watch it for a minute, see where it wants to go, you're learning about how your body and your mind are connected to this emotion. That's an awesome practice. And the third is you got to take some sort of, I don't know, pause,
Yeah.
like a breath, a reset. Like there's a practice to down regulate even in that moment.
Yeah.
Do you do both those?
Yeah. Yes.
You do.
I mean, sometimes I wait too long to pause and breathe, but it happens, right? And we brought in this practice called conscious leadership into our company, and they have this silly saying called above the line, below the line. And the first thing is like, I'm below the line. I'm feeling anger, right? I'm feeling fear. And like, that's like the first thing is you gotta train yourself to feel those things. Cause once you know, like I'm there, then it's really easy to be like, okay,
That's it.
that's it.
Well, that's awareness.
And it's okay to be below the line.
It's fine.
Like,
we're humans.
We're
Right.
taught
All
it's
of that.
bad.
Yeah.
Right. But
Well,
it's,
you know what?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple things like I'm feeling for Anna right now.
Yeah.
One is like the point is like you learned anger in your sandbox, and the cultural sandbox of the certainly where we both live in the United States is like, yeah, anger is not so great. But you know what? If somebody comes into your home and they're a threat to your safety, there's a couple options. Okay, the ultimate option is like totally poised. You are eloquent with how you're handling that situation.
Yeah.
Cool. Like just call that poised. You could be scared or you could be pissed off. In that moment, what would you choose? If you can't find the ultimate poise, the eloquence to be able to deal with that moment.
I'm running into the fire.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
You'd rather be
Anger.
pissed off.
Yeah.
In most competitive situations, take any sport you want. If you're going into an environment where the stakes are high and you're not feeling quite right about it, you're not in that poised state, would you choose to play your first rep scared or a little pissed off?
Pissed off.
Yeah. Anger will facilitate performance better than fear will.
Yes.
Okay. This is a dangerous game, I'm suggesting though,
Mm-hmm.
because if you can't find poise and you feel yourself sliding into the anxiety, fear kind of response, what that does is it tightens us up, makes us smaller, more hesitant. My suggestion here, and this is again, a little bit of a dangerous fire, is like, wait, hold on. Figure out how to get to another state other than the scared state, and maybe anger's. Now I'm playing with a dangerous emotion on purpose. I don't think any of us want to stay in a dangerous kind of anger state for very long. So I understand the kind of the subtlety to this. So there is a place for anger. If you stay stuck in that thing, it's problematic.
Yeah.
And or you publicly embarrass somebody, you got problems.
Yeah.
Right? If they're caught in the wrath of your anger and you belittle them, you cut them down, you fill in the blanks, you embarrass them, you have to publicly repair that as well.
Yep.
If you publicly embarrass, you need to publicly repair. And I'm not so sure people come back from it.
Yes.
And when you are angry, you say things that can hurt other people. And I don't think people come back from that easily.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
That is very hard. Like we've all said things that we regret, every one of us.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And they take a long time to repair. I kind of in this conscious leadership practice that we've had in our business, I've found that fear and anger, I used to think a lot of my fear was anger, right? And I've actually diagnosed a lot of my anger is actually me being scared.
Okay, so you're on a good science here. If we just made emotions really simple and you had 4 basic emotions and you had a scale of 1 to 10 on each one of these, by the way, this is good homework for you and your partner. This is good homework for you and your wife. This is good homework for you and your teammates, you and your kids as well. You just draw 4 kind of primary emotions and you put on the scale 1 to 10, you put a 5 and you put the word anger. Okay, that's the anger scale. And then fill in all the hash marks of what words, where does pissed off go?
Yeah.
You put it like a 4. I put it at like a 7.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to calibrate.
Yeah.
But we're putting words to the dimension. So it's not like I'm angry. So I like to say, Lisa, my wife, before we did this work, I'd say, well, how angry?
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm pissed. Wait, is that a 4 or a 7?
Yep.
Okay. So there's a calibration that's really important.
Yeah.
Then on the second scale, you put happy as a 5. And
Yeah.
you fill in all the words. Okay. And then scared.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a 5. Then you fill in all the words. Like the most fear is like terrified.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one is sad. Okay. Sad is the last one. Now, what we know is that anger is a secondary color. Anger is the second emotion. When you do the deep work, you realize that anger, there's an emotion that comes before anger. It's something on the sad scale, like, boy, I'm really let down. I'm really hurt,
Mm-hmm.
And that's such an agitating, difficult state to be in. It's way more proactive, like I was talking about earlier, to go to express anger because that first one is so tender.
Yep.
and or you're somewhere on the scared scale.
Yep.
Like to your point, which is like, I'm afraid this is going to keep happening.
Yep.
And instead of working from that tender, kind of isolated, fear-based place, it is socially more acceptable to do something on the anger scale.
Yeah.
So the problem with it is that it's expensive to run. Anger is a very expensive emotion to run. You can publicly damage another person in the relationship. And if you're not careful, you kind of get stuck in the anger loop as opposed to dealing with the first emotions, which is where the real work happens.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think that, do you think Anna is going, okay, you said a lot of words, but I'm not sure I feel any better about this?
Potentially. But I do think there's only two ways to process anger. It's outward harmful expression, which is how you burn bridges, right? And you create sometimes irreparable damage, right? Or an inward harmful expression. You can inwardly process it and it doesn't have to be a harmful expression.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the thing of like, you can outward or inwardly take the emotion in my mind, but it doesn't have to be a harmful expression inward, right?
Yeah. If you're cutting yourself and being yourself and like, you know, as opposed to like just saying, wow, I'm really pissed off at myself.
Yeah.
Huh. Now, she asked for tools.
Yeah.
Okay. I did the name it.
Yeah.
Breathe, but there's a second generation mental skills coach called Ken Ravizza. You might have remembered Ken Ravizza. He passed away a number of years ago, but he had this system called the 5 R's. It's a little complicated, but it's simple. Okay. So the 5 R's are how to deal with the emotions or how to deal with an unsettled state. First, recognize. He's talking about be aware.
Yep.
You know, are you at what he would do? It's really fun. Are you at a red light? Are you at a yellow light? Or are you at a green light emotionally?
Yeah.
You know, like yellow light is like, man, I'm a little shaky, you know, my confidence or whatever. Okay. Recognize. Then release. Take a breath. Release that intensity. Okay. Maybe 5 breaths, maybe 1 breath, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Release it. Okay. Maybe a yell. Maybe kind of bang your bat.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're angry, bang your baseball bat on the grass in a socially appropriate way. Recognize, release, regroup. So get back, talk to yourself, back yourself, get yourself back together, pull it together now through self-talk. Recognize, release, regroup, refocus. Take your attention and put it outside of you on the task at hand. Recognize, release, regroup, refocus, respond. Just go let it rip. Go out there and do the thing. So those are the 5 R's that Ken Ravizza introduced, you know, as a mental skills practice that I think are pretty practical. And if you can remember the 5 R's and you can practice the 5 R's, I think there's a real utility in that.
Yeah. Those are awesome.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you for being part of this podcast. We put a lot of love and care into each conversation, and it would mean a lot to us if you could do 2 things. If you could hit the subscribe button below on the Finding Mastery YouTube channel and give the video a like. It's a free, no-cost way to support the podcast, and it helps us continue bringing these conversations with some of the world's best thinkers and doers to you. Again, just like and hit the subscribe button below. Thank you so much for being part of this community. Let's keep growing. Let's keep exploring together.
All right, next one, Mont. And I don't even know what he's talking about here. So can you explain the default mode network, how it works, how it can work for or against us, and other resources or practical advice on how to change it to work in our favor? I'm trying to be more optimistic and creative by default instead of worrying. First off, I don't know what the default mode network is and what he's talking about. So
I love that. Okay, default mode network. It's a mechanism in our brain circuitry that is the default mechanism, okay? And so basically, our brain's dictum is survival.
Yeah.
More than anything else, right? It is designed to scan the world for dangers, to figure out kind of how to survive this world. So the default mode network is when your brain is kind of at its basic level, it is making sure that you're okay.
Mm.
And so right now it could be, does Jeff think I'm okay? Am I saying the right things that I want to say? Like there's this self-referencing network. Am I okay is what we think the default mode network is about. And I want to put a huge asterisk next to this. The science and research around this is, I don't know, a couple decades old only. So there's a lot of room here to keep space available for a deeper understanding. I wrote a bunch about it in the book, The First Rule of Mastery, because that self-referencing default mode network, am I okay, is a bit of the culprit to being fully present and being joyful and being connected to other people. Because if I get this thing underneath of me that's saying, does Jeff think I'm okay? Am I okay here? Is this room okay? Am I okay? Is it going to be okay? that it corrupts our ability to be fully present and engage with another person.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you quiet the default mode network, which is what I think Mont was talking about? Deep focus. So if you're on the side of a cliff and you are kind of hanging on and figuring out survival, and your attention is on the next kind of thing that you need to do to figure out that moment, and you're all in that deep focus because it's a survival kind of thing, you will not have time for the default mode network. What does Jeff think of me right now? Okay. Deep focus like meditation. Deep focus on a task at hand. Solving a complex problem requires deep focus. So when somebody is deeply focused, we see that their default mode network quiets down. So deep focus is the kind of the antidote of the wildly reference checking, am I okay default mode network.
Do you think deep focus, why it's so important is because it ties to purpose, right? When you're in deep focus, right? Like for me, when I hear you say this, right? Like when I am able to deep focus, meditate, right? Step back, I almost always eventually get to purpose. Like, what do I care about? Why am I here? Right? Like that thought process and that deep focus draws me back to purpose, which allows me to not have those questions of like, am I here? Am I good enough? What am I doing?
You got
all
it.
of that.
Yeah, that's that's eloquent, that's clean. And also, let's say that you had a purpose mindset. Let's say you and I kind of, as we sat down, the thing that was most important to you was to be connected to your purpose as you're choosing how you're responding to the questions or whatever. And that thing occupies the majority of your thinking, okay? It becomes the main reference point. That quiets down the default mode network. And the default mode network's job is, am I okay? And instead of am I okay, the new question, if you have a purpose mindset, which is trainable, is, am I aligned? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about. And I think what you were saying is like when you meditate, meditation is an all-in practice of refocusing 1,000 times, in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Refocusing back to one thing, maybe a breath, maybe a flickering candle, maybe a mantra, maybe to following your thoughts, whatever. Okay. But the all-in refocusing back to the thing quiets the default mode network. Mm-hmm. And eventually it creates more available space for you to be connected to the things that matter purposely more to you. So I would point to like meditation's a good one. Optimism, I don't know how to square default mode network actually with optimism. So I'm going to just kind of squint at that and kind of glaze over. But do you think that was of value to Mont?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I learned about the default mode network and it makes sense, right? Like we are millennias around survival.
That's right.
And how do we survive? Very rarely do we ever have to actually survive. Like nothing in this room is going to kill us unless something terrible happens, like,
that's right.
But it's hard. Like we're wired a certain way.
But the main threat for most people is not that the roof is going to fall.
Yeah.
The main threat is, what is Jeff going to think of me?
Yes.
What is Mont going to think of me?
Yeah.
And because if we got kicked out of the tribe because of underperformance, and
we die.
It's a near-death sentence, right? Yeah. So that's why we're so designed, like the ecosystem, to be relational, to be cooperative.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and so this is a mechanism to make sure that we're not blowing it.
Yeah.
I think the clear takeaway for anyone, including Mont on this, is invest in a practice that supports deep focus.
Yeah.
And when you recognize, when you're not in the deep focus places, no problem. And when you recognize that you are paying attention to how you're doing, that's fine because it helps you course adjust. But if it feels like it's overwhelming, just kind of wink at it. Be like, oh, not now.
Yeah.
Come back to the task at hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Claude, I find when I leave Canada for extended travel periods, I suffer from terrible loneliness. Where does that sudden and impelling loneliness come from? This was one of the first, like when I just skimmed it, like I read loneliness and I was like, oh man. And as it sat on me, I was like, man, I do feel lonely too sometimes, right? And I think we all have different feelings of loneliness. Like when I look back on it, and I think this is a really interesting question, right? Like I suffer from terrible loneliness when I leave my home, my place of living. And where does that sudden and impelling loneliness come from?
Yeah. I can hear it in your voice too. Like loneliness it's hard. It's hard when you feel like you can't manage it.
Yeah.
Loneliness is fine. Like it's normal. Moments of feeling loneliness. But when it's enduring, when it's sitting kind of in the bed of everything that you're doing, it's like, whew. So much so that it is on the rise as an epidemic. Death by despair is a real thing. Suicide is, in the US, there's about 49,000 suicides per year. Death by despair is this new category that has emerged, which is people that are so lonely, so desperate in their lives that they are accidentally killing themselves. They're overdosing by accident.
To just cope.
So let's address loneliness because it's a real thing, especially when we're promised to be more connected through social media and all that stuff. That loneliness, by definition, is like you're in a public place and you still feel lonely.
Yeah.
Alone is different. Sometimes when you're alone, you don't feel lonely.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So the point is like when you're away, I think that this question is when I get out of my environment and I go away, this loneliness thing emerges. The way I hear the question is really framed in when I'm in the grind and I'm in kind of doing my thing and I'm hustling, I'm doing whatever the thing is, it's like got enough noise that I don't pay attention to the thing that's underneath the surface, which is this sense of loneliness. Then I travel away and I don't have my familiar kind of practices and my familiar people, my familiar conversations, that there's enough space that loneliness bubbles up.
Yeah.
And I think the question is really important for this reason, is because you're aware of something and you're recognizing a pattern, which is grind to kind of in the hotel room. And when you're in the hotel room, it's telling you something about what you need to work on.
Yeah.
So how do you work on loneliness? One, do exactly what we've been talking about in this conversation. Feel it. Create the space. Okay. For the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be connected to what's happening inside of me. And if loneliness emerges, for that 10 minutes, feel it. You might cry, you might curl up in a ball, you might like have surprising emotions or thoughts that emerge, but you're going to time box it for 10 minutes. So you're going to train the uncomfortableness of loneliness for 10 minutes. And after that 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 12 minutes, 20 minutes, just time box it. That you say, right, good work. That's good training. I just exercised in this way. And then you kind of just go on to the next thing. But when a loneliness feeling emerges later, you're like, wait, I'm going to actually go get in touch with that tomorrow in my training. So it's not ubiquitous across the entire day. You box it in a way that you can train it, get to know it, be connected to it. You can wrestle with it, and it's not bleeding throughout your day. No different than when you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, I'm going to exercise later in the afternoon. And it kind of just is sitting all day long, like, yeah, I got to exercise later. And then you get home at 4 o'clock, you're like, yeah, I got to exercise, but I just need a break. And it's kind of sitting all day long. Yeah. This is one of the benefits I think of exercising in the morning. It's time boxed.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't bleed into my day. Okay. So
and then you don't do it.
And then
you feel
if your training is in the afternoon versus in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm suggesting is when you time box it and you wrestle with it and you do the thing, it doesn't bleed throughout your day. Yeah. Same with loneliness.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful actually.
Yeah.
If you just like continue to kick, then you never address it. You never do it. And then you go to bed and you're like, for me, it's like, man, I should have worked out today.
Right. Yeah.
I had every intention to do it.
Yeah.
Man,
I wanted to.
I feel lonely.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
That's exactly right. And Jeff, one more thing on this is that loneliness is one of the symptom clusters for depression.
Yeah.
So depression it's a real condition. There's nothing to be afraid of. More people know what depression is than you might think.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I don't want to just miss that it's part of a cluster of something else as well. It's not just loneliness itself. It could be on a path of depression. Yeah. Okay. Major to minor depression to dysthymia, to something that's really kind of like, it's just kind of garden variety down in there. And the last thing I want to just hit on this thing is that people that are connected, according to research, people that are connected, they increase their survival odds by like 50%. That's a huge number. So I don't want to scare the lonely person like, yeah, I'm going to die early, but there is evidence that loneliness, there's an increase in mortality rate by like high 20%.
Yeah. It's interesting because it sounds like at home, they are great.
It's cool.
And I mean, who knows what Claude does for work or requires them to be gone for months at a time. And that to me makes it feel like they have a real sense of purpose where they're from, right? They have connection
Oh,
to
that's
people.
how you hear this. Yeah.
Right. And then when they leave, that whole system that they have is left behind. The people, the things they love, their comforts, the known, and who know, like, I again, don't know who they are, but like, and then it's like, when they leave, it's like the world, right, is not how I expect it to be. And I don't know how to navigate it. And therefore I'm not like, this is the, what's rattling behind my head. Like, nobody here knows me.
Okay. I think you're right. And so I like where you're taking this. And so there's a couple best practices, and you'll know these as an elite athlete, is when you're in a hotel room, let's just use an example, and you're at another place, it might be really easy to not go outside for a while because you go from your hotel room, you don't have kind of some outside stuff, you go to the office or the setting and it's inside the building, whatever. So you could be totally whacked on circadian rhythm. You'd be totally disconnected from nature, totally connected from sunlight. That is a central nervous system depressant.
Yeah.
So depression, central nervous system is depressed from biological, from psychological, from a lot of things. Oh, you know what's important? I can't believe I didn't even think of this. Is if somebody were to come in, an athlete or somebody comes in and like, hey, Mike, I'm really struggling with depression. Early in my career, I'd be like, okay, let's go to kind of a cognitive behavioral training, and let's kind of do best practices for that. Okay, good. Albeit that the relationship between us is really the fabric of the whole thing. But I don't know, like 10 years in my practice, which was way too late, I was like, wait, hold on. They might have a pituitary gland issue. There might be a medical thing. They're just calling it depression or loneliness, but maybe their pituitary is not firing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some other stuff that's happening that their central nervous system feels depressed, but it is biologic.
Yeah.
It's more organic, if you will, that way, rather than psychologic.
Yeah.
And so let's not rule that out. And I look at you because there could be some supplementation, there could be some nutrition, dietary things where people are like not feeding the Krebs cycle the right way. They're not feeding, like if somebody were to say to you, I'm depressed. Okay. I'm not asking for medical advice. Okay. But they're saying I'm depressed. And would you say, hey, how's your vitamin D? Would you say that?
No,
You would not.
I would not. But I think like part of it is like what I read and think about this is when you're at home, you have routine and a practice, right? I read that Claude has this. When you're on the road, right? You go out to eat, you order, you don't cook, right? You don't get outside very much. You might just go to the hotel gym by yourself where you have like a workout crew at home. And it's like, how do you, right? Like think about the things that is your community that drives connectivity where you live. And you have to like, it's work, but you have to replicate those things.
Cool.
Right? It's like, hey, I'm on the road. I try to still take all the same nutrition supplements. I try to sleep. Like, I'm like, oh man, I'll stay up and watch a movie tonight because I'm in my hotel room. Like, I don't have anything to do. Like, no kids. Nope. I try to keep a rhythm. And I find myself when I'm on the road, right? There's this terrible habit of like, wake up, go to the hotel gym, eat a hotel breakfast, right? Go to my meetings, come back to the hotel, right? After dinner. And like, there's no space, right? Like, nobody's like, oh man, I'm just like relaxing in my hotel room. Like, let's go sit in the lobby. Let's go to the coffee shop. Let's go to because at home, like you have an outdoor space to sit. You have a couch, a living room, a dining room table, and everything just is like there in a hotel room. You live in this 20 by 20 box and it's depressing. It is I dislike it a lot and I'm on the road a ton.
I think you'll relate to this is that when I'm with a football team and it's camp and camps are a grind, as you know, right? 3 weeks of it's a grind. Now, when you're done with a long day, all the coaches, most of the coaches at least, and most of the athletes go back to home, wherever the home is. Maybe it's a roommate or maybe it's family. Yeah. And you know where I would go? Back to my hotel room by myself.
Yeah.
You talk about like being tired and alone. I'm a social creature. I don't like going back and just sitting in the hotel room, but I'm like, damn, I don't have anybody. Yeah. Of course, I have this huge amount of space for the love I have for my wife and my son, but they're not there. I can call, but it's just a little bit different. Yep. I relate to this.
Yeah. And I think like you guys just got to find what, to me.
You go to community.
Yeah.
You go to like environmental conditions and community conditions. I go to psychological as well. Yeah. I want to point to that. And I'm also just creating space for biologically, to make sure that, I don't know, it's just, there's not something else.
Yeah. I think that's very wise.
Yeah.
All right. Next one's from Matthew. I was introduced to finding mastery through a development program at work, and the course was genuinely transformative for me.
Cool.
Wow. Thank you, he says. It helped me see how much of my day was being driven by reaction rather than intention. Even with that awareness, I still struggle to protect time for reflection and self-investment when work and life are full. How do you recommend people build a sustainable rhythm that honors both responsibility and personal growth, especially in leadership roles where others depend upon you? I could ask this question.
You could have asked that question.
100%. So the question, I'll read again. How do you recommend people build a sustainable rhythm that honors both responsibility and personal growth, especially in leadership roles when others depend on you? Like he's struggling to protect time for reflection and self-investment.
Yeah. I love this question.
It's awful.
I love this.
Matthew, I feel you every single day. Like
Yeah.
lots of times I go to bed, I'm like, man.
You know what's cool, Jeff, is like you're kicking ass in life.
Yeah.
You got a healthy family. You got a healthy business. You've had like this high performing career before that in sport. Like you're doing great. And for you to say, I struggle to have enough kind of reflective time. I love hearing that because I understand it too myself. And I think most people would say, oh, of course, Jeff and Mike have it all together and like, because they're not in the corporate grind or they're not whatever. Yeah. This is a real thing. So what I do as a best practice for me, and first and foremost, like this is an unfair advantage because I've been studying high performance psychology for 30 some years or whatever. So it's an unfair advantage of the mountaintop I've been able to climb to understand all of what goes into living a high performance life. I know that this simple solution that I'm going to share with you will fall far below the complexity of your unique life, okay? But the solutions in psychology are relatively simple. What's complex is it uniquely fitting for this individual that I have not met yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's and I want to hear how you deal with it, like to your best. One is I carve out time in the AM to do the work. That is not a new idea. If I miss it because I got to be in the office earlier or I got an early flight or whatever, then I'm looking for times throughout the day to do it. And if I can't do that internal reflective work, I'm not mad at myself. I used to be like, oh man, but now I'm like, tomorrow. So what is that internal work? The morning mindset routine, and I'm sure that we can put a little show note link in here to send it to folks. It's a very simple 4-step process that is part of every one of my mornings. It's 4 things I do before I get out of bed. And it's fast. And it's the bare minimum. It's 1 breath. Maybe if I got some time, it's 20 breaths. It's 1 breath. I'm in control of this thing, okay? It's 1 thought of gratitude. It's 1 clear intention. I'm using mental imagery for the intention. And then I just pull my sheets off and I take a moment to be where my body is. So then I'm practicing being present. It's those 4 steps every morning. It's a baseline. And if I can open each one of those up for a handful of moments, I'm winning. But if it's just 1, 1, 1, 1, and I'm literally in and out in 90 seconds, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I just need to just say that I really appreciate it because I think we have this idea that we're supposed to be doing everything at full tilt. Sometimes it's just a 90-second training for me.
Yeah.
How about for you?
I feel like I'm not quite in the phase of it's okay you didn't do that today. Like you are. A lot of days I'm like, why didn't I spend 30 seconds on myself? One of the things I really realized, and this was about 2 years ago, is like I needed not like a 30 seconds today. I need like a 3-day get out of my chaos. That is Jeff, a father and husband, Jeff, right? The CEO, co-founder, right? Not that. Like go somewhere and do something that is very out of my normal. And that deep grind that I've found, right? It's always outdoors. It's always physical in the backcountry, in remote places where there isn't distraction, right? I literally have to create an environment where I can't be distracted. And it honestly takes me a little while to get out of my own, right? Work mind, family mind. What can I do for the inward reflection? I found that if I do that once a quarter, it's really healthy for me. And that's like, it's kind of like a Masagi, right? Like a long, hard adventure where it's like, my body's tired, my mind's tired, and I'm not thinking about work. Like I am a little bit, right? Because my mind is wandering, but I got to give it space on it.
Because,
and then,
yeah, Matthew asked, like, how do you recommend people develop this?
Yeah.
And you and I are both answering in slightly different ways, but the same commonality is to schedule it.
Yes.
So get ahead of the calendar.
Yeah.
Schedule it quarterly,
Yep.
like the 3-day or
Yeah.
annually. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
schedule it. And now, beginning of the year type of stuff, like cool, like get it. Think about, you've got another handful of months to, schedule it. My alarm goes off or my wife's alarm goes off. And then we purposely hit the snooze button. That's 6 minutes. Now I'm not falling back asleep. Trying not to. 95% of the time. That's my 6 minutes to go do some internal work. So I'm scheduling it. And it's small.
Yeah.
It's tiny. It's deliverable. It's habit building. Start small, celebrate. So here's another thing for Matthew, is that when you schedule the thing, your 3-day, just scheduled it. You've put it in the calendar. Celebrate like a wild person.
Yeah.
Okay? So you're pairing this wonderful feeling with the first act. And then when you buy the ticket, like celebrate like a wild person. Talk about it, like back yourself, like have fun with it. Now on my path, I just do like one breath. Celebrate, like that's right. I'm a little bit better today.
Yeah.
So I am trying to pair positive states with the actions that I want more of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
one of the things that does help me on this is, right, I'm like the sticky note person, right?
Oh, you do?
The athlete, of like, I'll write something. Like I used to write things on my wrist tape of like what I wanted to, like, what is my intention?
You did.
Right? And I wrote attitude and effort almost consistently of like, because of those things you can control. And one of the things that, right, I've done around this of like, I don't know if it's helping me with more time for reflection or self-investment, but it's more of this reminder is like, I think Courtney Thompson said this, who you introduced, like, be where your feet are.
Yeah.
Right. It's like this reminder, it's okay to be where you are. Right. Like stop
not
chasing.
okay. It's a requirement.
It's a requirement.
It's a requirement.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh man, I wish I had time. And it's like, no,
right now.
I'm in this meeting.
Right now.
Or like, I have 30 seconds to do it.
Right now.
Awesome. Do it right now.
And then when you do it right now, I'm going to pair it with that other kind of best practice for creating sustainable habits is celebrate like a wild person. Like, I just did it. I'm doing it. Great.
Yeah.
Over time, the celebration is not necessary.
Yeah.
Because you're just in it.
Yep.
And that is the inherent reward itself. So yes.
But I also think what is so important, Matthew, with this is just like, you just knowing that you struggle to protect time to do it is like incredibly important. Like the self-awareness to have that, hey, I want to do more time for reflection and self-investment is like 95% of the battle. It's like have that space to know you need to do it.
Yep.
And now it's just the action of it.
And I'll kind of wrap it up is that schedule it.
Yeah.
Is it 90 seconds in the morning? Is it a 3-day, once a month, once a year, whatever it might be? And that's kind of like using the planning part of you to invest in the things. It doesn't need to be massive.
Yeah.
But it might grow.
Yeah.
It just might grow. And I'll leave with one story is that the CEO of AT&T, I hosted him at a Seattle Seahawks game. And so we're on the sidelines and the stadium is 68,000 people at the Seahawks, as you know. And so we're standing there, it's starting to fill up. And I looked up and I said, hey, how many people do you indirectly manage? And he looked up and he said, how many people are here? And I said, 68,000. And he says, 4 times that.
Oh,
okay. And I said, I looked at him. I said, John, really? And he goes, yeah. And I go, oh, and it clicked because earlier in the day, he was talking to me about his practice. So his morning practice, he started with a 10-minute meditation. And he's like, man, that was good. After that 10-minute, I just kind of felt better. Okay. And then he said, so I doubled it to see what the experiment would yield. Man, my emails were better. My conversations, I was more switched on. So I'm at 20 minutes a day, Mike, and it's pretty good. He says, I got up to 4 hours a day.
Of meditation?
Not a meditation, of like internal work in the morning. So reading some stuff. His was meditation and prayer, writing some stuff. I go, 4 hours? That's half a workday for most people. He goes, yeah, I would work 10-hour days, no problem. He goes, but I was so much better in my remaining 6 hours of the day. I was crushing it. And he says, I became bedrock for people as opposed to surface crust. Daunting. I'm not at 4 hours a day of internal investment. But I point to like, that's a
Nobody's
model.
busier than he is,
No, exactly.
right? Like,
Exactly.
I mean, when you say I manage 4 times 68,000 people,
320,000 people.
I'm just like, oh man,
Yeah,
man,
right.
I think it's hard
Well,
here.
to be fair, he's got probably 12 direct reports.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
That's
right?
cascaded.
Like, I don't have I have the same probably direct reports as he does.
That's exactly
but
right. Yeah.
I'm not responsible for 300,000 plus souls.
Isn't that amazing?
And their livelihood. Like,
Maybe even more importantly, that he was doing the internal work.
100%.
And I'll just start that story one more time, is that he started with 10 minutes and he liked how efficient and how good he felt. So he kept doubling.
Yeah.
So anyways, Jeff, this is awesome. Congratulations on how you're designing your life. Thank you for being a great co-host to the AMA here. And congratulations on like what you're building at Momentous. We love the partnership and I feel really safe with what you put into your products. So thank you.
Thank you. Awesome to be here.
Next time on Finding Mastery, we're joined by Michelle Kari, creator and host of Challenge Accepted, the hit YouTube series where Michelle trains with elite performers to take on some of the world's toughest physical and psychological challenges. In this conversation, Mike and Michelle explore what separates preparation from bravado, why courage is a system, not a personality trait, and how Michelle has built a serious, sustainable business in the creator economy without burning out. Join us Wednesday, March 11th, 9 a.m. Pacific, only on Finding Mastery.